Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday SJU. Got me, Eric. You got Lon. You got Kim. How's it going, everyone? It's a slow news day. So what are we going to do on a slow news day? Let's talk about the MCU.
Batman or the MCU. Those are the fun.
I mean, it's funny because it's like we're coming out of Eternals opening weekend, and it's like, here's a Spider-Man poster. Here's a new Hawkeye poster. You can't stop that ship. It keeps going. So we're going to do a little State of the Union on Phase 4, which I guess it shows you where we're at, that Phase 4, less than a year old as far as giving us new content. And we've had 4 TV shows and 3 movies so far. So more MCU than ever. But how do we feel about it? So I know, Lon, you haven't seen Eternals.
I know. So, sorry, everybody. I know all the secrets, though. I know every spoiler.
We'll avoid getting direct on the spoilers, but maybe we'll dance around them a little bit.
I'm not gonna
say. So let me just ask, both you guys, like, where are you at? How are you feeling about Phase 4 so far? It was always going to be a weird time, I think, for the MCU, because they were like, the Infinity Saga is over, which Infinity Saga being everything we've done so far, which we're kind of considering one big story is finished. A couple of our major actors are done. And so it's going to be, we knew it wasn't going to be as eventized in a certain way. How you feeling as we finish up the first year of Phase 4 right now?
I mean, I don't know how to feel, Eric. It's kind of all over the place. I think I'm still feeling this, riding this crest of a wave that ended with it didn't end with Endgame, that began with Endgame. And, we've seen so much open up now in some of these early projects of Phase 4 that I am just waiting for this wave to get even bigger. And it feels like this almost unbearable tension within me. So I think when I watch something that's a bit underwhelming, as we'll get into, I feel quite a sense of crushing disappointment, actually. But there are some highlights and some lowlights so far.
It's fascinating because we were in this moment where, one movie would come out at a time, and it was all part of this overarching story. And, they were making it so that you could miss some of the movies and catch up later, but it was relatively linear. And then post Endgame, for a bunch of reasons, Disney Plus obviously coming along, and now there's TV and film, and the pandemic kind of shuffling everything around. It feels like now it's developing in so many different directions all at once, and it's just like a lot more to kind of keep your head around. I feel like before, the storyline of the MCU was a lot easier to follow, and I feel like now it's like becoming this sort of monster of its own with the meta, the multiverse and all these different angles on what's going on with the multiverse and all these shows and films. And so I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I think in some ways it's getting more expansive, which makes it even more epic. But there are downsides. Like I get what Kim is saying, where it feels like there's so much going on, and there is all this like narrative tension about how big everything is developing and how the movies are kind of working with and undercutting and moving around one another in the shows. So yeah, it's more complicated now.
Yeah, it's funny. The ultimate what if, the real life what if of like, if nothing had changed from their original plan, and I'm even going to go back before pandemic, I'm going to go to the brief firing of James Gunn. Because if that hadn't happened, Guardians 3 would have been the first movie of Phase 4, which I think would have been a very different vibe than starting with Black Widow, a movie I like, but I also understand the first movie of Phase 4 is a movie about a character we watched die recently and is like set in the past. So it even more, I think, and we'll talk about the TV shows, of course, but I do think it is a strange time because, yeah, it's like there was so much momentum into Endgame, and it's foolish to think that they can keep that going. Like the point of that movie is, was such an event movie, and you can't keep that momentum going year after year. But it is a strange time as far as like, okay, we're taking a step back, but we also have been trained to look for these links,
Sure.
And which means that sometimes we're going to overread on something versus things that they want us to get excited about.
I also feel, and I felt this very strongly with Black Widow, which I also thought was like, that's a good movie. That's a fun movie that I enjoyed. And I feel like we're now in this moment where it's so easy after 20 some films to get a little jaded on this. They know how to make that movie, and we are used to them making that movie. And so when they make that movie, we're like, okay, that again. What else you got? And it's like, you can't help but kind of be underwhelmed, even though it's the same formula we've been enjoying and liking that's been crowd pleasing for a long time. So I don't necessarily know what they could do with that, but it does feel like they kind of have to up the ante now with every new film, especially, and every new project in ways that I'm not sure is sustainable.
Right. Well, it's interestingly, you know, you mentioned Black Widow. Of the 3 movies that we've seen so far, it's my favorite of the 3, and it arguably ties in the least to what comes next.
Yes, I mean, it definitely. I mean, I don't know, like based on what I've heard about it.
That's why arguably.
Shang-Chi definitely feels like it's branching out into a new realm of the MCU.
Yeah.
It is.
That's my favorite of the 2 I've seen of the 3 films. That would be my favorite.
Same here. But it is interesting. Like, how do I? Here's my Eternals non-spoiler, which is to say, I'm going to mention something that is not part of the movie, which is familiar characters. Like Eternals is like very much like even more than Shang-Chi, which made sure to have Wong show up a couple times in the movie to do a little more hand-holding as far as like, this is part of the world, you know. You know, Eternals minus a couple of like mentioning Thanos and Avengers by name doesn't have that. And I've talked to some people where it's like, they're like, yeah, it feels weird because at this point we want those, or we've been, you know, trained on those connections so much that when a movie is truly, I guess Doctor Strange was the last time they did that, because I was like, they kind of cheated with Doctor Strange because the mid-credit scene was literally a scene from Thor Ragnarok. Like they didn't film anything with Thor, but they're like, look, he's going to meet Thor. It's okay.
But we will meet Thor.
Right. But Eternals the first time in a while that it's felt so disconnected. And I think that's a tricky thing for them right now when everyone is so into that connection.
There's a difference, like something like the first Guardians movie or Doctor Strange or then Shang-Chi, I think it's not necessarily connected so much to what's come before, but it's like, this is where we're going. You're like looking at this new area of the Marvel universe and like, get ready for this because we're going to keep exploring it in future projects. And that's the vibe I really got off of Shang-Chi. I can't say if that's also true of Eternals, but from what I have heard and what I think the conversation is, it's less so. It's more just like, this is kind of its own pocket side universe that links up in some ways, but not directly. Right, and I think those are kind of 2 different modes that MCU movies can sort of go in.
Yeah. And I think it's just getting people maybe used to that other mode again, because it turns so much into the super connections. So 7 projects so far. I know you haven't seen Eternals, Lon, but we've mentioned certainly our favorite movies. But when you think of like what we've seen this year from Phase 4, what is each of you? What's your favorite thing they've done? Favorite project?
Definitely Loki for me because of its scale and its tone and its uniqueness. It felt like something I haven't seen before in the MCU. And while it was really original and enjoyable and interesting in itself, but at the same time, it made me excited for both season 2 of Loki and the future of the MCU. So it's done quite a lot there for me. It's worked really hard, but it also brought us some already iconic characters like Owen Wilson's Mobius, who was brilliant, and Crokey and classic Loki. And Jonathan Majors, He Who Remains was great as well. And also I felt that it gave Tom Hiddleston a chance to really shine as Loki.
As an aside, I saw the French Dispatch last night, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised anymore when I'm like, wow, like at least 6 of these people have been in MCU projects in the new Wes Anderson movie. There's a lot of crossover there. Lon, what's your favorite?
I mean, I'm inclined to say Loki as well. Definitely, I thought that would be my answer, but I did also really like Shang-Chi. So I don't know. I'm kind of debating. I thought like the best things that Marvel can do, or like my favorite stuff in the MCU at this point, is when they can sort of bring in these other styles, these other influences, and like make it sort of work in collaboration with what they already do and the Marvel sort of MCU formula as we know it. And I thought, wow, Shang-Chi really hit that well. It felt like this really nice fusion between like a sort of a martial arts kind of epic fantasy sort of thing and a Marvel movie. And so yeah, I'm sort of back and forth. I like Loki. I didn't love the last episode as much. Shang-Chi really worked for me, so I don't know, kind of on a par. Those two.
Those two are in my top three. I dug them both a lot, but they're not my number one. My number one is WandaVision, which just like has like a experience, like there was so much talk about, even of course Disney Plus going back to a week experience for people. Like that's been my favorite like viewing experience this year. They had me at Hello, they had me at 1950s TV without explanation. I was just really into that show, into the vibe of it. I love the retro thing. I love taking these characters and doing that. It's funny that show also has one of my. It has a moment that pissed me off a lot, which is the Ralph Boner reveal. But I also can't push aside how excited I was when Evan Peters was at that door. How thrilling it was, even if I don't like the payoff on it. But like the whole show, yeah, I really liked it. I really liked it as a spotlight on these characters, and that they got the first time we really felt they could get weird, and Loki of course continued that too, but get weird and trippy, and the fact that the TV shows let them do that in a way the movies, which have to kind of go towards their like 2 hour and 20-minute big final fight, can't. So yeah, that's the one I keep kind of revisiting in my mind a lot. But yeah, the two you mentioned, those are my top three for sure. But what is everyone's least favorite of the 7 projects we've seen before? What do you think did not hit the mark the most?
What if? Immediate. My number one least favorite thing. I don't know. Something about that didn't click with me. I mean, maybe it's just it's not for me, or it was meant as more kind of like just like an episodic kind of cartoon show. Like it didn't feel like it was telling stories in a way that was compelling. Things just kind of happened and it trailed off, and some things connected and some things just didn't. And it just felt like, I don't know, goofy, and I didn't really love the animation too. I liked some of the like explosions and that kind of like fire, and those animations look great. The character designs and the dialogue scenes don't look very good to me at all. So I don't know. I did not care for it.
Kim?
Well, I mean, yeah, I did not care for What If either, but I'm going to give it some credit for being an experiment, and that's quite commendable. So I'm not going to pick What If, and I'm not going to pick Eternals, although I was tempted to, purely because of Kingo and Karun, and the post-credit sequences, which I'm not going to spoil. So I'm going to choose The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Because it just, for me, was not very engaging. It was a bit of a chore to tune in every week. There were things I appreciated about it, like Isaiah Bradley's story and the presence of the Dora Milaje and Zemo's dancing, but they were not powerful enough to lift it off the floor for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was going back and forth a bit on this too, because I was like, is it What If? But What If I didn't have as high expectations for. Like, I think it's fun they did What If, and there's some of the episodes of What If I thought were great, like super fun. I do think in its totality, I was kind of like, and I felt they did a crossover when they didn't need to yet, like the way that season ended. But Falcon Winter Soldier is more disappointing for me. The Isaiah Bradley thing is the one big thing that I think, kind of sort of saves the show, because it is a great element of the show. But yeah, a lot of things didn't come together on that one, especially when it's in between WandaVision and Loki, where even though, and by the way, I have some qualms with the way both those shows ended with Loki and WandaVision, but I still think they kind of worked. Like overall, they just like worked. Where Falcon Winter Soldier, yeah, I just felt like, yeah, there's some cool parts and some good performances, but I don't think it really nailed like feeling like a cool sort of cohesive sort of worldview, or just even like a overall vibe like those other two shows had. And so that's kind of sticks out as the most disappointing for me, even though
all of these Marvel season ones, they all kind of did this thing where the show makes the world like really big and opens up this interesting pocket of the world, but then by the end they have to like condense it again, because they've got to like set back to zero, so the movies can keep going in case you didn't see Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like they need to like resolve it very quickly, and so the last episodes were always kind of a letdown. And I agree, Falcon and Winter Soldier just kind of petered out at the very end, like right when it needed to get most impactful is when it was just like, well, we'll have Anthony Mackie give a speech. He's a great actor, and it's a good speech. We'll have Anthony Mackie give a speech. The bad guy will do something really bad so that we're sure that she's definitely bad. And like, we'll wrap this thing up, bring in JLD for a cameo, and we'll move on. And like, that wasn't what I was hoping for, but I thought the show was really strong up until there. So I don't know. I was really into it. I love the way they brought Zemo back. I thought, man, take that character from someone I did not care about and was not invested in 1% to like a guy I'd love to see show up in something else. So if you could do stuff like that, Isaiah Bradley, I agree, that stuff worked great. I like I thought Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie did a really good job, and like I'm more invested in that relationship now. So if you could hit all those sort of buttons, I think in a 6-episode series, that's pretty good.
We're at a weird time where, again, COVID has affected things, of course, with all the scheduling shuffles.
Yeah, our thumbnail, Eric, I noted, but our thumbnail has the original dates, so you could even see on the thumbnail just how much things have changed since they announced it at Comic-Con. And
it's so it's like, even though the TV shows are obviously increasing the frequency with which we see MCU stuff, we were not supposed to have Eternals, Hawkeye, and Spider-Man this on top of each other. So we're about to get 2 other major releases, one of which I think everyone agrees is going to be the biggest, box office movie of the year with Spider-Man. But with all the things we have coming sort of on the horizon, what are you sort of most excited about for stuff that is 100% announced, I should say, versus things that we can surmise are happening?
I mean, I'm looking forward to Spider-Man first, which surprises me because it was one that made me roll my eyes a while back, But I'm so looking forward to admiring this Colossus, which it is. It's going to be. Well, I hope it is, because some of us might be seriously disappointed if all the stuff that's supposed to be happening in it doesn't happen. So
I've been assured by certain watermarks that it's definitely happening. I don't know what you guys.
And then once that's out of the way, then my eyes are on Doctor Strange and what Sam Raimi does with that. So very excited for that.
Kim gave my answer, which is Sam Raimi, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I can't wait. I love the first Doctor Strange movie. I know a lot of people, that's not one of their top MCU movies. I'm a big fan of that one and what Scott Derrickson sort of did with it and the sort of visual style of that. So that plus Raimi plus like crazy dark multiverse horror elements, like, I'm very sold on that one. I can't wait for that. I'm also really excited for this Moon Knight Oscar Isaac show. That's one of the rare Marvel Comics characters I actually know from the comics. I read those comics growing up. So that would be that sounds amazing. Perfect casting in that one. And I'm really excited.
I see in the chat that Fiona Gilbert said, I am sure Spider-Man No Way Home will be a huge hit and will restore faith in MCU Phase 4. I mean, I basically agree with you, Fiona, even though it's like, personally, like, my faith is not shattered, but I also know it's like right now they've had these 3 either brand new characters or with Black Widow, kind of like a standalone story from the past. But when you look at Spider-Man going into next year with Doctor Strange, Thor, and Black Panther sequels, those are all kind of surefire hits, one way or the other. Personally speaking, I think I will also say Doctor Strange is the one. It's funny because I've just rewatched all the Raimi Spider-Man movies in anticipation of No Way Home, and it's funny that it's like, oh, this is interesting because I'm watching the Raimi Spider-Man movies because of No Way Home, but also it's like Sam Raimi is returning to Marvel with Doctor Strange, so that's kind of like a whole cool thing, and it'll be very interesting to see him in this realm, of Marvel versus what he did.
A new Taika Waititi Thor movie is also very exciting. Like it's only that it's Sam Raimi doing Doctor Strange that is outweighing the fact that Taika Waititi's coming back and they're bringing Natalie Portman back. And the Guardians will be in there. Like that sounds great. I'm excited for that one too.
And I know Black Panther's obviously like a huge question mark of how do they handle this terrible tragedy, but at the end, it's also like Ryan Coogler directing another movie.
Yeah, of course. Right.
So you mentioned, you guys were just mentioning, I threw this in here because it's something I wanted to briefly touch upon, but we are not going to discuss the specifics of the Spider-Man leaks. But I just wanted to ask you guys, what do you think of like this place we're at with leaks? I know personally I was pretty pissed because it was just in my Twitter feed. I didn't look for it. People just like posted.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah, it was. I did not have a choice on this one. This was presented to me before I could say yes or no.
Are you at a try to be a zen place with it, or is it like, come on guys, can we rein this in a little bit?
I mean, it doesn't bother me. I don't actively search for it. You know, I know you didn't, and it just popped up in your feed. But I don't mind seeing it. I'm fine with spoilers, full stop. But you know, you never know for sure what's real, right? So wait and see.
Yeah, I'm not saying these are real. I saw them. I don't know if they're verified or not. I do distinguish. I feel like, because people were comparing it to like The Sixth Sense, and like that's a different kind of spoil. I think there are spoilers that can really impact the effect of watching the movie, where it's like, here's a big reveal, a big secret. This is what the movie's really about. Those kinds of movies, I do feel like Fight Club, you could spoil for someone, or Empire Strikes Back has a big reveal you could spoil for someone. But hey, this casting rumor thing that we've heard, or this cameo, like to me, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, like it's wrong to care about them. Like I get that a lot of people don't want to be spoiled, and I think that's your right as a viewer. I'm just saying, for me, I don't really care about that. So like if this stuff is real and I saw it in advance, like, okay, there it is. That won't ruin my enjoyment of the Spider-Man film.
I try to avoid them best I can. They pop up there. It's always hard to tell till you see the movie what is a you shouldn't know this at all versus we just didn't want you to know this yet. I just experienced this with Ghostbusters Afterlife, where there was, some very specific things they said, don't talk about this, don't bring it up in interviews. And then the final trailer came out this week and it kind of showed a lot of that stuff. And I was like, wait, you didn't want me to talk about it 2 weeks ago, but now it's out there because the studio chose now is the time. So,
and I think a lot of the time, in retrospect, like the reveals that were the coolest in the moment were not even the ones people were like worried about spoilers. Like in Shazam, I think that's such a great moment where they all grab the wizard staff and then they all Shazam and all the kids get to turn into heroes. And like, that was not even on the spoiler menu before that movie came out. And yet it was like, that's a great, that reveal means more to me than like, oh, this actor or that person or that character is going to show up.
Right. If they'd gotten Henry Cavill, either way. Yeah, I agree.
Sure. Yes, that would have been cool. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't, for videos every day. Hit that like, hit that bell, every week, I should say. We're going to do AMA in a minute. So if you have any questions you want to throw in the chat, I know we got some, please do. I wanted to just do a brief, I know we haven't done this quite a while. What's everyone watching? What's a recommendation or two you guys want to throw to people, either a movie or a TV series that you think people would dig?
Well, here's a film that I revisited recently that I first saw when it first came out at Fright Fest. It's called Dogs, DHOGS, a Spanish film or Galician. And it's I can't say much about it because we were just talking about spoilers, Lon, and if I say anything about it, it will totally spoil the experience of watching it and discovering what it's about. But it's essentially 6 parallel stories that are connected, that revolve around these different characters. It's an indie film. It's I guess you'd call it a horror film too. It showed at Fright Fest, and it's really relevant at the moment in comparison to some other movies that have come out or are coming up. So that's what I'm going to recommend. It's on Amazon Prime Video at the moment in the UK anyway. I don't know about in the US, but Dogs.
Check that out.
I loved The Harder They Fall, that Netflix Western that went up. A lot of spaghetti Western influences. It feels like it's got a little Sergio Leone kind of vibe, but also like this. It feels legitimately like, you remember that period, like post Pulp Fiction, when everybody was trying to do like Tarantino, like retro, like it's going to be violent and hyper stylized with like references to like the 70s. And it feels like one of the best movies that would have come out in that era. Like I could have seen this, like The Quick and the Dead and Killing Zoe and The Harder They Fall. And I really like that era. It made me sort of nostalgic for both classic Westerns and that 90s era. Amazing cast. So you can see, a bunch of them even in this screenshot, but there's a ton more people than that. And like great performances from sort of unexpected people or newcomers. Like Dionne Cole, the comedian, is in it. He's really great. So I love that. That's on Netflix right now. And then I'm also been checking out this Korean series on Apple TV called Dr. Brain, which is from the director of I Saw the Devil, which is a really great serial killer thriller movie from South Korea that you should also check. And this is like this weird, it's like a psychological thriller horror sort of thing where it's this guy, he's a neuroscientist, and he's invented this way to like connect your brain to other people's brains, and like you can sort of see or scan their memories. And then he starts experimenting on like recent fresh corpses, and it starts messing with his own mind. And I don't want to give any more away, but a very trippy, very weird, unsettling show, visually pretty cool. And I know post Squid Game, everybody's looking for more Korean content. So jump on it, folks. Dr. Brain on Apple TV.
I'll briefly mention another Apple TV Plus project because they tend to have a lot of good ones. Just to say that Dickinson season 3 just premiered recently. I really like that show. I think the make it or break it for some people on that show is if you can go with the fact that it's like, it's, you know, the 1800s, but they speak like contemporary people, and some people don't like that. But I think the show does a really fun job with that, and I really like the vibe and the feel and the guest stars they get to play other famous writers. So I'm very much enjoying the final season of that. But my main recommendation is a movie I just revisited on Halloween. I showed my wife and a couple of friends this movie, and I hoped it was as good as I remembered. I hope that they would think it was good, which is a movie that barely got released this summer, The Night House. It came out. No one went to see it, but I saw it. I was one of like 3 people in my theater watching it. And I really dug this movie. Rebecca Hall is the lead. It's, basically a story, a haunted house story with this woman whose husband has very recently killed himself. She's staying at their house by the lake that he built. That's a nice, creepy horror movie house. Weird things start to happen in the wake of his death. And what's exactly going on, we'll investigate. What secrets might he have kept from her? She investigates. But I think, first of all, I think she is so phenomenal. And in a just world, she would get an Oscar nomination for this. She's so terrific. And I just think the movie is cool and creepy. It has a couple moments that literally made me jump in my seat by myself at the theater and yell out and be embarrassed, but then there was no one around to laugh. So that was good. The ending's a little bit, I think, of a disappointment, but it's one of those things where I think you have to kind of step back and be like, but think about the whole movie. It was a really good movie. They didn't quite nail the ending. So that movie, it's out on digital. You can rent or buy it. I don't think it's on like a streaming service yet, but that's my recommendation. Let's do a little bit of AMA, and then we got a video for you, a Dexter video for you. Not shockingly, AMA today is a lot of MCU or Marvel-oriented stuff. I will mention quickly, May, who said people have a short memory, 2023 is all known and beloved heroes. People will forget they were underwhelmed. Yeah, I think we all agree on that. Like when people really see that lineup and see all those trailers, they will not be saying like, I don't know these characters. Let me see here. This is getting tougher and tougher, James Bunt, but I'll still ask it because as we see everything get developed. Other than the X-Men, what successful untapped Marvel comic property do you want them to bring into the MCU?
I don't know Marvel comics like this well. Like we're starting to scrape the very edges of my knowledge of the Marvel Comics world. I will concede, but yeah, I mean, obviously, you in addition to X-Men, you've still got the Fantastic Four and all of their satellites, and so I'm going to go for an obvious one and say I think Doctor Doom is a very cool villain and character, and has been done in some not so satisfying ways over the last few decades, but I don't think they've ever really nailed that. They always try to update him in ways that I don't think are very satisfying. And to me, the best version of all of that stuff would be to just like either do it retro and make it period, or just say there's a country called Latveria and he's like, I don't think you need to mess with him as much as they keep doing when they make movies.
I have a quick Doctor Doom oriented story here. Remember when Noah Hawley was going to do a Doom movie with pre-Disney 20th Century Fox?
Yes.
He announced that at the Legion panel at Comic-Con that I was moderating. And what happened was shortly before the panel, he took me aside and said, I have an announcement to make at the end of the panel. So if you could kind of tee me up for that. Okay. And he didn't say anything else. So then he made the announcement, which was really, at the time, I was very excited. Obviously, this project didn't end up happening, but I love Noah Hawley's work with Fargo and Legion. But I guess that was a total surprise, including to like FX and Marvel, like that he was gonna like.
Right.
It wasn't a surprise that he was attached to it, but that he was going to announce it, and I
Right.
guess didn't. And everyone was a little like, like maybe he kind of took a little energy away from our Legion panel with his Doctor Doom announcement. What are you gonna do? It's no Holly. Any character, Kim, that you want to see finally get MCUized?
Yeah, now the character that immediately jumped to mind was Hell Cow, because I've always had a soft spot since I learned about Hell Cow, Bessie, before she became Hell Cow. I've always wanted to see her realized in the MCU. Now, she was attacked by Dracula and turned into a vampiric cow. She has connections with Howard the Duck and Deadpool, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility that she could make an appearance.
I hate to disagree with your pick here, Kim, but I'm being told by the wiki that Bessie the cow was actually featured or mentioned in an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode when Hydra is examining.
Well, they're setting
milk.
it up. Yeah.
So potentially being teed up for a Hell Cow inclusion here.
Well, this makes me very excited.
We can expect Disney Plus Day tomorrow. We can expect a Hell Cow announcement.
Yeah, I'm sure Hell Cow is coming.
This morning, Paul Thomas Anderson did an interview with Variety that got posted where he probably surprised some people by saying how much he loves Shang-Chi and Venom 2. That he's he's got kids, they love Marvel stuff, and he talked about stuff he enjoys. And I joked that he could do West Coast Avengers, except that they'd be based out of the Valley, because it's gay. But that made me think about right. And then I was looking at a picture of West Coast Avengers and thinking, oh, we've pretty much met all of them, or going to. Like Moon Knight's coming, and the Thing was a West Coast Avenger, but he'll come in fast forward. But I was like, ooh, except for Tigra. Tigra, who is literally, if you don't know her, one of the Avengers who looks like a female tiger woman, sometimes with the tail, sometimes not, and wears like a bikini with little like skull pieces on it. So let's get Tigra in there. Let's work towards West Coast Avengers. So finally we can feel protected out here, Lon.
Yeah, really. They're all in like the village all the time. It's like, crime happens elsewhere, guys.
Right, we get some UK Avengers.
Yeah, like Hell's Kitchen is covered. Like, we've got it. All right, you got to spread out a little.
I mean, yeah, there's Captain Britain. We can get to him at some point, So hopefully he's coming. But here we'll end before we get the Dexter video. Let's end here on a swerve away from Marvel. As Adam Holbert asks, will the Batman fall apart if it forces in more fantastical superhero elements into it? I assume versus sort of like the Nolan-esque, like everything could be based in science. What do you guys think?
I'm going to say no, and I think I'd quite welcome that as a different take. We've seen a lot of versions of Batman on screen, and I'm gonna get behind it and say no, it won't. And let's hope it happens and that it's a success.
Yeah, I think there's this idea that because Batman doesn't have superpowers, that it like we should put him in a real world. But it's like, no, it's still crazy. Like, it's not like Batman is realistic just because he doesn't have superpowers. In some ways, that makes it less realistic. So I'm all for making Gotham like, imaginative and like non-realistic and surreal in its own nightmare world. And like, I think that makes Batman movies usually work. But like, not to knock the Nolan movies, I think that's a cool approach that he took, but I don't think it's the only approach. And in fact, I like Burton's approach, where it's like not at all a realistic world, and Danny DeVito is a Penguin Man. Like I have no problem with that at all, and I would totally welcome that. Although it does kind of look from the trailer like he's doing a Nolan-esque world, I guess, except for the part where the Batmobile like jumps through flames. But for the most part.
Yeah, I want to see them embrace that stuff too. Cause I think Nolan stuff was great. Well, 2 of the 3 movies were great. And it totally worked with like that vibe. And then, I don't want to get into too much of the Snyder Batman, except to say that by having him be a Batman who'd been Batman for like 20 years and gone through a lot, then we jumped over so much stuff. So yeah, we literally saw him fighting like aliens, but it felt like we don't really know what his day-to-day as Batman was for all that other time.
Right.
That's why I think, think about how great the Arkham games are. And one of the things about them was it showed how you can do a Batman that both feels gritty and grounded and fights Killer Croc, and deals with like the fantastical stuff and Poison Ivy, who's like fully Poison Ivy. So I hope that these Matt Reeves movies, maybe you don't do it in this first one, or maybe you tease it a little bit, but I don't want them to repeat the there's no superpowers in this universe thing. I think there's a way to do it that, keeps it still like on a Batman level. It shouldn't be like cosmic maybe in a Batman solo movie, but you can still find a way to have Crocodile Man or Man Bat. I want to see Man Bat flying around.
Yeah, really. So, where's Man Bat?
Where is Man Bat? That is the eternal question.
Where is Man Bat?
Eternal question.
But here's where we can talk. Where is Dexter? We can give you the answer to that. He's back on Showtime. Dexter New Blood premiered on Sunday night, but the world premiere was in New York last week. As we're slowly getting back into like doing stuff, they're doing big premieres. And there's a guy from the past, guys, Hal Rudnick. Haven't seen him around these parts in a while, but as we're doing,
we did not spoil. We didn't spoil this cameo this time.
That's right. Rudnick returns because he went to the Dexter premiere first, and this looked like a pretty cool premiere as far as like they built like the sets from the show. They they were going pretty elaborate on this one. So
they actually murder you in a room that's covered in plastic.
But it was only if you volunteered. They didn't just
right.
it.
You had to sign a release.
Right. But check out Hal at the Dexter premiere. He talks to Michael C. Hall. He talks to some very excited fans and some other familiar faces from the show. So check that out, guys. We'll be back here with more at Fandom. Thanks.
Guess who's back? It's Dexter. Dexter New Blood is coming to Showtime November 7th. I am here at the world premiere at Lincoln Center in New York City. Let's see what's up. Ma'am, are you okay? What happened to you on the way here?
Yeah, I tried getting away. It didn't work.
Word on the street is that you voted for Dexter for president. Is that correct?
Wrote him in, of course.
I'm trying to promote Dexter, get everyone hyped on the new season by getting a Dexter TikTok dance going, okay? Stab, stab, detective, detective. Stab, stab, detective, detective.
Stab, stab, detective.
I'm here with the one and only Michael C. Hall, Dexter himself. Is Dexter a good dad?
He wants to be.
Instead of throwing a baseball, throwing knives?
Well, no, maybe. Yes, no, maybe. I can't say.
I am here with someone I hope is not a chip off the old block, the son of Dexter in the show. Does Dexter remind you of your own dad in real life at all?
No.
I'm here in what is essentially Dexter's cabin. This is actually a reproduction of the shop that Dexter's going to be working at in the show. What can I help you with? Knives? Guns? Ducks? I know you're a song and dance man. Could you ever see there being Dexter the musical?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely what I'm going to do next. Dexter the musical.
Amazing. You heard it here first. World exclusive. What would one of the songs be in Dexter the musical?
Well, the first song that came to mind is Psycho Killer.
Could you ever see Dexter the musical happening?
I would not only want to see it, I'd want to be in it. This blood, it's on my hands. Oh, this blood, where do I stand? Do I kill? Do I thrill? What is to happens here?
Dexter the musical coming soon to Broadway. Trying to get this Dexter TikTok dance going viral. Can you give us a little bit of stab, 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 stab? Give us a little kill for TikTok. That's going to go viral, too.
Could do a lot with that, too.
Stab, stab, slice, slice, stab, stab, slice, slice.
Stab, stab, slice, stab, stab.
A real deer from Dexter New Blood. Exclusive. Someone caught a fish. Maybe someone will catch a killer. Folks, with me is Detective Dokes.
Surprise, mother. You know.
Yes. You know his classic line. You got killed off. Spoiler, if you don't know, well, you should.
You're gonna have to kill me, Morgan.
But now you know.
Allegedly.
Okay. Oh, so what are you hinting at?
Nothing.
I'm Johnny Sequoia, and I play Audrey Bishop.
Do me a favor. Give us all the spoilers. Oh, you're good. You are good. I love the fit, but also the haircut.
Yes. I had to do a little something different.
Absolutely. You nailed it, sir. Is your detective going to make a trip from Miami to snowy upstate New York?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
You're just going to have to wait and see and find out.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Where does the story pick up?
It picks up with Dexter in a small cabin in the middle of the woods on the outskirts of a town called Iron Lake, New York, as far afield from Miami, both in terms of population and weather and lifestyle than you could imagine.
Does he get into cottagecore?
He probably, if he does, it's not because he means to.
Do you find that Dexter has some relatable qualities beneath the surface?
Yeah, and I think it's the things that he says set him apart that make him the most relatable. I mean, we all struggle with a sense of whether or not we're being authentic. We all have some sort of darkness that we contend with, maybe not as formidable as his, but we can relate to that. I mean, if he weren't relatable, the show probably wouldn't be as widely watched as it has been, you know?
There's a little bit of Dexter in all of us. Now, we can't do some of the vigilante things that he does, right? But it doesn't mean we can't relate to it or connect to it.
You just came out of a screening, the world premiere of the first episode of Dexter New Blood. Question, is Dexter back?
Oh, he is so back, and it was so good.
You heard it here first, he is so back, and it was so good.
Dexter is back, bigger than ever, the best.
It was delightful because we all had a laugh.
How was it?
Oh man, it was amazing.
Is Dexter back?
Oh, I mean, I think he made it clear.
Was it everything you hoped for?
It was pretty awesome.
Well, that was a good time. Got to talk to some Dexter super fans. Got to talk to the cast of Dexter.
Stab, slice, slice, stab, stab.
I want to thank everybody at Showtime, and don't forget to check out the new season of Dexter, New Blood, on Showtime November 7th.
Thank you in advance for watching.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to try to get out of these woods alive. Just kidding. We're in a building in New York City. Oh, it's snowing. Bye-bye.